and welcome to Salem's second annual Take a Veteran to School Day. Before we begin our program, I'd like to give you a brief background about our program today. Take a Veteran to School Day was developed by the History Channel and began in 2007. It was designed to help our students learn more about the history of Veterans Day and our country by way of personal experience that our veterans could share. We have very important people who will be joining us shortly, and it's important that we show them the respect they deserve and have earned. I know that you will show them your very best, just as they have done their very best for us and our great country. Please stand as we welcome our veterans.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Jana Broderick, Hannah DeGarmo, Katie Myler, and Art Michelle will sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Thank you for coming together to honor our veterans. I join the Salem Central School District and community in thanking our veterans for joining us this morning and giving us the opportunity to honor you for your service to our country. For your heroism and the freedom and opportunity you have given us, we thank you and those who have served beside you. Thank you for your service to the United States of America and your valor on land, sea, and air. I now welcome back to the podium Mrs. Jane Laurie, our principal.
I would like to now introduce 4 of our 7th graders, Zachary Cummings, Abigail Davis, and Colton and Tyler Laser.
I am your flag, by Marine Master Sergeant Percy Webb. I am your flag. I was born June 14, 1777. I am more than just cloth shaped into a design. I am the refuge of the world's oppressed people. I am the silent sentinel of freedom. I am the emblem of the greatest sovereign nation on earth.
I walk in silence with each of your honored dead to their final resting place beneath the silent white crosses roll upon row. I have grown through peace and war, strife and prosperity, and amidst it all, I have been respected. I am your flag.
My red stripes symbolize the blood spilled in defense of this glorious nation. My white stripes signify the yearning tears shed by Americans who lost their sons and daughters. My blue field is indicative of God's heaven under which I fly. My stars clustered together unify 50 states as one. Old Glory is my nickname, and I proudly wave on high. Honor me, respect me, defend me with your lives and fortunes.
Never let my enemies tear me down from my lofty position, lest I never return. Keep light the fires of patriotism, strive earnestly for the spirit of democracy. I shall remain the bulwark of peace and freedom for all mankind. I am the flag.
William Borntrager and Austin Evans will speak to us about the history of Veterans Day.
What is Veterans Day? Why do we have Veterans Day? Many people think that it's just another day off school, but it means so much more.
According to the United States Department of Veteran Affairs, Veterans Day was also known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day happened in World War I when there was a ceasefire between the Allies and Germany. Originally, Veterans Day was strictly for veterans of World War I. However, in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower changed the holiday to not just celebrate those who fought in World War I, but for those who fought in the Korean War and for the veterans in the years to come. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson said that November 11th would be the day to give solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service. In 1938, November 11th became a legal holiday that would be celebrated annually for the recognition and honor of those that fought for our country.
Today, in celebration of Veterans Day, all over the United States, schools and federal agencies have the day off on November 11th. In Washington, D.C., the national ceremony for Veterans Day happens annually at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers at 11 a.m. A combined color guard representing all military services executes the present arms. This is a two-part command used by many militaries in the world as a sign of respect. Every year, the President urges everybody to celebrate this holiday in respect for those who fought for our country.
At this time, can we have a round of applause for our veterans?
Now I'd like to turn the program over to Mrs. Kathy Payne and our first graders.
Country
I would like to introduce our guests of honor, the veterans who are in attendance with us today. Please hold your applause until I read all of their names. Veterans, if you are able, please stand when your name is called. From the U.S. Army, Earl Morrow, George Miller, Al Cormier, Ralph Perkins, George Gilchrist, Michael Dashnaw, Margaret Rod, Richard Opolsky, Jim Connolly, Jared Barber, Fred Barnes, Paul Moss, Andy Irby, and Norm Button. From the U.S. Air Force, Colonel Susan Phillips Magaleta, I'm sorry if I have not pronounced the name correctly, Paul Mychek, Mark Duran, Jack Barber. From the U.S. Navy, Floyd Pratt, Arthur Irby, Mark Cummings. From the U.S. Marines, Tony Chicoine, Donald Perkins, Bradley Curtis, Frank Masso, Dick Hickland, and Floyd Hafner. And from the U.S. Coast Guard, Nolan Cuevas. If we have any other veterans in attendance who I have not named, please stand to be recognized.
Don Rich, United States Army.
The importance of Veterans Day. For all veterans, regardless of their service and the era in which they have served, they have paid the price time and time again. They have defended America through both the best and worst of times. And they have performed their duties tirelessly, with little recognition or fanfare. We also honor the more than 1 million American men and women who have given their lives for their country since our nation's founding. Our debt to these heroes can never be repaid, but our gratitude and respect must last forever. For many veterans, our nation was important enough to endure long separations from their families, miss the first of their children, freeze in sub-zero temperatures, bake in wild jungles, lose limbs, and far too often lose their lives. Military spouses have had to endure career changes, interruptions, frequent changes of addresses, and a disproportionate share of parental responsibility. The children often had to endure changes in schools, separation from friends, and hardest of all, uncertainty of whether mom or dad will live through their next combat tour. You cannot fight a war without veterans. And while the utopian idea of society without a war is appealing, Let us not forget the wars that liberated slaves, stopped genocide, and toppled terrorists. Stephen Ambrose once wrote, "America's wars have been like rungs on a ladder, by which it rose to greatness. No other country has triumphed so long, so consistently, or on such a vast scale through force of arms. It has been often said that without our veterans, America would be speaking Japanese, Russian, or perhaps German. Regardless of which view of alternative history you take, we do know that without our veterans, America would not be America. Through their blood, service, and sacrifice, veterans have given us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on earth. It is impossible to put a price on that. We must remember them. We must appreciate them. Lastly, I'd like to say I'm personally proud and wish all veterans in the past to present to be here today, to be a part of this powerful message, an incredible lesson that you are giving us all here today. Thank you.
Please sit back and enjoy a special thank you from the Salem school community.
Thank you for my grandpa, John Felton, for serving in the Marines. This is a picture of my dad, Joseph Hackett. He was a second lieutenant in the 11th Troop Carrier Squadron of the United States Air Force. He served during the Korean War, and he flew a C-119 all over Europe and Northern Africa, bringing supplies to the troops. And he was flying in the flying boxcar, is what it was called. And I'm really proud of him for what he did, and thank you, Dad, for your dedication.
Active Navy, George Slocum, my father-in-law, who was in the Navy and fought during World War II.
My stepdad, Roland Hall, and my grandfather. He was a Navy weapon.
For serving in World War II.
Just retired from the Air Force.
My brother Randolph, and graduated. My dad, Lawrence Mike, currently John, Tina, and Abby, and Luke. Thank you for helping keep our country safe.
Mark, and he was in the Air Force, the desert, storm the desert ship. Now that to think. My class made this poster for Marine Sergeant Scott. Our hero. We love you, Lisa. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to now introduce Mr. John Clark, who happens to be an SWA graduate, who will share the story of his father, Francis Clark, one of Salem's most well-known veterans.
Good morning, and thank you all for welcoming me. I'm very honored to be here in the company of all these good men and women. This is not my forte. I am always comfortable with my family and my friends, and generally the rest of the time I'm a happy hermit in my house on River Road. So I'll try to hold up to what could be an emotional message. My dad was born in Whitehall, New York, and moved to Salem up on Rupert Road when he was about 4 or 5 years old, onto my great-grandmother's farm, and he's lived there and lived in Salem all the rest of his life. He was a boxer when he was a teenager and a young man in his 20s, and very famous here because boxing was not uncommon, and every town had their favorite boxer or boxers. And he was a semi-pro at the time and very successful and became very well known. He married my mom on the 4th of July, as any good veteran would. And we lived on a farm, which is now the Farm Supply, on Route 22, and I was raised, most people don't know, milking cows and cleaning the drop, as we called it in those days. So he was also, as a child, just commonly, took both of his children, my sister Kathleen and myself, the leader, or at least the color guard leader, of almost every parade we ever had in town. It was nothing he spoke of with any great sense of pretension. He was extremely humble as a veteran, and I can remember distinctly he and Norm Button, Bob Hunter, and all the others carrying the colors and marching proudly on a day like today with a great sense of purpose and duty and a great sense of pride in the flag. And the flag to my dad, whether or not it flew on every occasion from the farmhouse, though it usually did, was not necessarily an indication of what was going on in Congress. It was an indication of what we should aspire toward and what the best of our country has brought to us. And it was a symbol of all that we could and should become. So I had an acquaintance once who flew the flag upside down when they were upset with congressional decisions. But don't disrespect the flag. Vote and respect the flag for everything it represents. My dad's citation for heroism in World War II is as follows. He fought in Luxembourg and in Svenik, Germany. He fought gallantly in Luxembourg and Germany, and on 12 September 1944, Company K began fording the Our River, the Kelborn, Luxembourg, to take high ground on the opposite bank. Covered by early morning fog, the 3rd platoon, in which Sergeant Clark was squad leader, successfully negotiated the crossing. But when the 2nd platoon reached the shore, withering automatic and small arms fire ripped into it, eliminating the platoon leader, the platoon sergeant, and pinning down the troops in the open. From his comparatively safe position, Sergeant Clark crawled alone across the field through a hail of bullets to the stricken troops. He led the platoon to safety and then unhesitatingly returned to the fire-swept area to rescue a wounded soldier, carrying him to the American line while hostile gunners tried to cut him down. Later, he led his squad and the men of the 2nd platoon into dangerous sorties against the strong enemy positions to weaken them with lightning-like jets. He assaulted the enemy machine gun with hand grenades, killing 2 Germans. He roamed the front and the flanks, dashing toward hostile weapons, killing and wounding an undetermined number of the enemy, scattering German patrols, and eventually forcing the withdrawal of a full company of Germans heavily armed with automatic weapons. On September 17th of that year, near Salem, Germany, he advanced alone against an enemy machine gun, killed the gunner, and forced the assistant to flee. The Germans counterattacked, and heavy casualties were suffered by Company K. Seeing that 2 platoons lacked leadership, Sergeant Clark took over their command and moved among the men to give encouragement. Although wounded on the morning of 18 September, he refused to be evacuated and took up a position in a pillbox when night came. Emerging at daybreak, he killed a German soldier, setting up a machine gun not more than 5 yards away. When he located another enemy gun, he moved up unobserved and killed 2 Germans with rifle fire. Later that day, he voluntarily braved small arms fire to take food and water to members of an isolated platoon. Sergeant Clark's actions in assuming command when leadership was desperately needed, in launching attacks and in beating off counterattacks, in aiding his stranded comrades, and in fearlessly facing powerful enemy fire, were strikingly heroic examples and put fighting heart into the hard-pressed men of Company K. That's my dad. These are his friends and colleagues, and we are deeply proud of all of them, and we celebrate all the men today in all the years that brought us to where we are, and let's move forward with great dignity, great speed, to the best country we can possibly be. Thank you.
Our 8th graders, Andrew Gilbert, Michael Thompson, and Abigail Cheney.
Greatest man I know, by men and women. The greatest man I know is a man I never met. He's a man who risks his life to save a friend, not only to save a friend, but to save a nation, risking his life for those he does not know, stepping up, leaving loved ones behind, that somewhere someone else will have. He is a man who follows orders, even though he knows he might die.
The greatest man I know is the man who would rather die, so one more person could go home to be his family again. The man who stares death in the face, whatever flinch. The greatest man I know is the man who risks his life, so one day the world may be a better place for his children, or any man who goes against it with his spirit, death, just to save someone he loves.
The greatest man I know is the man who fights so another man can have the taste of sweet freedom, not fighting only for his own benefit, but for many others all over the world, fighting to make this world a better place. That's the greatest man I know.
I will now turn the program over to Mr. Richard Butler, the high school band, and the junior and senior chorus.
Sing
Mr. Marlon Gallimore.
Good morning. On behalf of the Salem Central School District Board of Education, I offer our warmest welcome to everyone, especially our visiting guests and veterans. When asked to say a few words at this assembly, I was truly humbled. It is an honor and privilege to acknowledge a body of individuals that rightly deserve frequent recognition by each and every United States citizen. We have law enforcement, firefighters, emergency responders, and many other men and women in and out of uniform who provide daily service to our local communities, our states, and our nation. We have teachers, board members, and community volunteers who have to get in the trenches at times, all in the name of service. But our veterans, how Americans have greatly benefited from their service. Without them, truly, the United States of America would not exist as we know it today. Because of our veterans, Americans freely travel throughout the country. We buy, we sell, we build, and we tear down to build anew. We farm, we hunt, we fish, and we just walk and sometimes play. We educate in our wonderful facilities such as this school, and we're offered higher educational opportunities throughout this great land. Americans enjoy life, liberty, and pursue happiness, all of which can be traced back to the unselfish dedication and service of our veterans. Wars are not welcome. These are not events in which any nation desires to engage. Even so, when called upon throughout our nation's history, our veterans have responded. Because they responded, we experienced livelihoods and privileges that are envied by many other nations throughout the world. I ask you, how would life be if the calls were unanswered? So please join the Salem Central School District in perpetuating the honor of our veterans by instilling in every child, every student, at every opportunity the importance of the service provided by our veterans, past and present. Let us plant seeds of respect and thankfulness in the hearts of our children so that they in turn may plant them in the hearts of theirs. In doing so, the unconditional sacrifice of our servicemen and women will never be forgotten. To the veterans present amongst us this morning, I salute you and thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. Our students are going to have a great opportunity to be able to meet with some of our veterans more personally following the assembly. I'd like you to join me in thanking our veterans. May you all have a healthy and happy weekend, and as you observe Veterans Day, may you thank and recognize our veterans for their dedication, their sacrifice, and their service, because they have given us the opportunity so we can enjoy the freedoms and the opportunities we have as Americans. May you please stand as they exit the auditorium.